Hey, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Azure Flash News, episode 92.
92. Wow, we're coming up on the, and arguably, if we were truly keeping track, we probably have actually gone past the 100 mark,
Yes, this
but
is true.
we, I like it this way because we can officially celebrate it when we hit the artificial threshold of 100.
We'll say episode 100 of
That-
the ones we've been counting lately, or
That's
something. I
right.
don't know.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, absolutely. Welcome everybody.
yeah,
Episode 92.
yeah,
Today is the 16th. So happy after tax filing day
yeah. Right. That's right.
for those of you in the States.
That's right. Well, we do have viewers that are not in the States. I
Yeah,
see people from
absolutely.
Australia and from the UK watching the show. So we want to thank you
Absolutely.
for tuning in from across the pond and whatnot. So
Absolutely. I hope you're staying safe and hope you're staying sane, more
yeah,
importantly.
no
Well,
kidding.
actually, they're both just as important.
Yeah, it's crazy, crazy times. So,
Right on.
Rick, I've got something to tell you. I actually been doing a fair bit of home automation.
Really?
Yes, I have. I
All right. Well, talk to me, Goose. I want to hear a little
okay,
bit
okay.
about
So
this.
I'll keep it short, but I put in a bunch of Wemo
Yep.
plugs and switches. I don't know if you've heard
Yep.
of Wemo, but that was kind of like a
Oh, yeah.
somebody was like, if you're just barely getting started, Wemo's a good place to start
It's
because
a great place to
they're
start.
they're not that expensive. And then
Right.
I kind of broke down.
Uh-oh.
I got an Echo Dot. Ugh.
Oh, you're killing me,
I
Smalls.
know, I know.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You know what? Technology is a beautiful thing, and it just is.
But
It is what
but
it
but I have
is.
to say it's working very well. So if
Good.
people want to give it a
Good.
shot, you really ought to try it. It's kind of fun. But
All right. You want to talk about some crazy home automation? At some point, we have to have Vincent, one
oh
of our
yeah,
CSA counterparts in the UK, who's doing some really cool stuff with home automation and home monitoring. Specifically, I think he's got some solar panel stuff in there that all kinds of cool stuff. So it might be a fun episode in the future to have all things home automation, right? A
fun.
makerspace or whatever
Yeah,
people that because let's be honest, I mean, all this stuff has the capacity to run backend systems in Azure,
yeah.
right? So
And
whether they are or not is a different story, but
and the one thing I did set up was I set up a custom Alexa routine so that my kids
yeah,
can ask to have the Minecraft server turn on. And that goes to if
nice.
this then that, which actually calls an
Yeah.
Azure Logic app, which actually uses Azure to turn on the VM. How about that?
Dude, that's now do they turn it off or does it auto shut down?
It does actually auto shut down. So anyway,
Okay.
okay, all right.
Cool.
So,
I do. I love it.
I had
That's
to mention that, but
dude,
okay.
the
So
things we can do.
yeah, the things we do. So today we've got some stuff about it's all about Azure Storage. The whole
It
show.
really is.
The whole
It
show is
really is.
about Azure
Today is
Storage.
a storage centric day.
So I tell you what, we don't even need to go over anything because that's all storage. We can just dive right in.
Awesome. So my cell phone started ringing right in the middle of it.
Oh, well, you bleeped out for a
We'll
second there,
just
but that's okay.
yeah.
It's
Sorry, I'm
live.
just gonna.
The show is
I,
live.
that's right. Bluetooth is off. Bluetooth is up. Anyway, yes, storage. Storage is awesome.
Okay, so the first topic is a general availability announcement of Azure Files with
Yep.
Azure Directory as with on-prem AD authentication, Azure Active Directory Domain Services authentication. So
Okay.
if
So
I'm right about this,
let's digest
yeah, I was going to say
let's
we got to break
digest
that
it.
down.
So first of all, it's GA, so it's generally available. So it's production quality.
Yep.
Not that it wasn't before, but it's officially production
Right.
quality. Azure Files, which is our Azure Storage Files solution on Azure, obviously. Uh, On-premises Active Directory Domain Services Authentication.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are talking about a hybrid solution for identity authentication against Azure Files in the cloud.
Yeah, and Azure Files once again is SMB shares, right? So
Yes. SMB
SMB3,
3.
SMB3.
Yes. Okay.
Yep,
Yes.
SMB3.
Awesome.
So, so this is a big thing. People have been asking about this because Azure Files is kind of like an SMB share, and then everybody's
Yeah.
just like, oh well, it has
It's
authentication, right, with Azure
yeah,
AD.
exact. I
Not
know. I
yet,
know. And
but now yes, we have it.
exactly. And so to me, one of the big cool scenarios is virtual desktop, right?
Yes.
So you've got this opportunity with AD directory services or domain services integration, right? It takes that same authentication and authorization as a traditional file server to Azure, right? So user profiles get loaded from the file share
Yep.
during the desktop session. You continue using ADDS setup and ACLs if you have to use that, right? But so in a VDI scenario, you get better. So the files, the cloud native file service, of course, we do a little. Well, we do a much better job in dynamically scaling,
Yeah.
right? Because that's what the cloud's all about. So if you have a VDI farm, for example, that you started with 500 users, but let's say all of a sudden you have this, let's say COVID hits,
Well,
I don't
I
know,
don't know, like a
something,
global
right?
pandemic.
And you go from 500 to 5,000. Azure Files Premium tier basically gives you the ability to scale up your capability along with performance to handle the increase, and you get the authentication and authorization that you would expect to have to make a seamless solution.
Yeah. There's another couple of things that are added, some updates. First of all,
Yep.
enhanced data
Yep.
protection with soft delete. So if you don't
Yes.
know what
Love it.
soft delete
Love it.
is, it means you delete the file, and we actually don't delete it. We keep it around for you.
Yep.
It's like a recycle bin. We all know the old recycle bin in Windows. We basically have a
Yes.
recycle bin for Azure Files. We also have max file sizes, bigger,
Oh, it's big. Yes.
and
Love
now
it.
we've talked about this. These are 4 TB bytes.
Tibby bytes, not
Not
terabytes. Tibby
terabytes, TB
bytes.
bytes. These are
Exactly.
if you want a more detailed explanation, you'll have to go back into one of our shows. We talked about
Yes.
what a TB byte is. Anyway,
Yes, we did.
um, and then and that's on premium, and then private endpoint support for Azure File Sync. So
Which is awesome.
a lot of new extra capabilities that are here that people can really get excited about. So really good
Oh,
stuff in
without a
Azure
doubt.
Files.
Yep, absolutely. And the cool thing about private endpoint support, of course, is you can connect to your Azure resources from on premises, right? And using either ExpressRoute or with private peering, ExpressRoute and private peering, of course, to your Azure resources,
Hmm.
or you can simply use the site-to-site VPN and get that secure
Right.
connectivity without traversing the public internet.
That's right. That's right. Really, really good stuff here. Really excited about
Really,
this. Cool stuff.
yes.
And, I was actually looking, of course, I don't know if people have noticed, but we're actually kind of going back and covering some old stuff. It's not that old, but
It's well
we
in cloud time it
it's kind of
is
old.
ancient
This
history.
th- this one is June
No, I
this one
get
is
it.
June 11th. So this
Yep.
one's been around
Yep.
for a little while. We'll kind
Just
of
over a month.
yeah. So we're kind of going. We were off the air, as you guys all know, for a couple of 3 months as we kind of got figured out how we're going to do this in COVID. Now that we're back, we're kind of going back and covering all of those old things. So anyway, so
That's
general
right.
availability of Azure Files SMB with
Yep.
ADDS. Awesome. Okay.
Yes.
Anything else?
ADDS. That sounds like a mental health issue kind of thing.
I have
I suffer
ADDS.
from ADDS,
Yeah.
Active Directory Domain
Domain service
Services.
syndrome.
That's right. Oh man, I'm sure there are some people out there that probably who are knee deep in AD that would say that's a thing.
Yeah, right.
Totally.
Okay, so
Okay.
now we're on to some Azure Files
Yep.
stuff. All right, I'm gonna go back here. So the
Yep.
Azure File Share Snapshot
Yep.
Management by Azure Backup is now generally available. Once again, Rick, there's like nearly everything you need to know is in that title. We just have to break it down.
I know, I know, totally, totally. Well, the funny thing is, so now I see GA, and all the, it's
Hmm.
like, well, I know we were on a little bit of a slowdown with COVID, but it's almost like people didn't stop working. We
No.
figured out that we can actually work remotely and
Yep.
still be
Yep.
productive.
That's right.
So, congratulations to the Azure engineering team for continuing to move things forward, to continue to develop and create features and enhance things. Thank you so much. Anyway,
And this one is from April 29th, so it's a little bit older.
so
But
it's a hair older.
but
Yep.
we're still on Azure Files, so SMB,
Yes.
Azure
Yes.
File
Yep.
Share, Snapshot Management. So we
Okay.
have management of snapshots of Azure File Shares using
Yep.
Azure Backup, and this is generally available. So people might have heard about this, you might have seen
Hmm.
it, but
Yep.
this is now generally available. So go ahead, Rick. What were
So,
you going to
so
say?
just to touch on this though. So when we talk about snapshots, right? Snapshots are not versions, and I think people have to understand that there is a difference, right? When we talk about Azure, we do actually have versioning now, right, with Azure, with our storage stuff.
Hmm.
But I think we're clear, snapshots aren't necessarily a version. It's a snapshot of something, at a point in time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So a version is something where you've officially said this is, V2.
Yeah. Right.
But it's kind of an official line in the sand, a line of that says, okay, this is now the latest and greatest. Where snapshots are really kind of, again, point in
Yep.
time, not necessarily a version of something so much as a state of
Yep.
something at that point in time.
Right. And you might take snapshots every day or every week or whatever.
Correct.
But
Right. Exactly.
it gives
Exactly.
you the ability to take those snapshots now.
Yep.
And it just gives you like the ability to do this without having to deploy anything.
Oh,
I
totally,
mean,
totally. I mean, it's a completely zero infrastructure solution.
yeah, you just
And if that's not cool, I don't know what
yeah.
is.
I mean,
I mean, come on,
that is the definite. You look up cool in the dictionary, and what does it say? It
right?
says zero
Zero
infrastructure
infrastructure.
solution. I mean, that's what it says.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Well, and a lot of what I like about this though is you do have the ability to manage your retention based on a backup policy, right? So, and you can restore full shares or if you don't not want to basically restore the entire share, that snapshot of that share, you can actually do individual files and folders within the context of that snapshot of that
Beautiful.
share,
That is
which is
beautiful.
awesome.
I mean,
Totally.
honestly, I mean, in some ways, I guess this kind of brings to fruition Azure Files as a real SMB share solution.
Totally
We've
agree.
really needed snapshotting and backing up because customers always say, "How do I back that up?" Well,
Yep.
now you
Right.
back it up. Use snapshots right here. We keep the
Yep.
snapshots, and you can keep them and then restore whenever you need.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's actually kind of interesting towards the bottom of this particular post, there's a title, right, or a header that says "What's next."
Oh yeah,
So based on our conversations with customers, we're working to deliver functionality above and beyond snapshot management using Azure Backup. Okay, but what's awesome is it says we welcome this and all feedback from customers that help us align our work on features you will
that's
value.
right.
Okay. Not what we think you might want, not what we're guessing at, not what we're telling you you want, but what you're telling us you
Right,
want. So
right.
if there's something that is deficient, if there's something that you would like to see, help us. You can go. There's a survey that you can. It's linked right in this blob
Yep.
or this blog entry.
Not a blob, a
I know,
blog.
I know, right? Well, it might be service from blobs. Who knows?
Well, it might be.
You can go out and fill out the survey. Have a voice.
Yeah,
Have
please
an opinion.
do.
Right? Help shape the product because that's where you win.
Yeah,
Well, that's where we all win,
yeah,
right? We give you something that you actually want to use, and you have something you actually want to
yeah.
use. So anyway, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and then the next last thing that I love is at the bottom of this post. And once again, you guys can get all of the posts that we're referencing here out of the show notes. Please feel free to head
Yep.
on over to azureflashnews.com. You get the show notes there.
Yep.
And it's just a GitHub repo, and all of our stuff is just done in Markdown and different things. So,
Wait a minute.
and as a matter of fact, it's actually already done. Sometimes we don't do it until after the show, but today they are done.
Correct.
And so even if you're watching live, you can flip over there and go see it. But
Absolutely.
now it even says getting started. Here's how to do it. So
Mhm.
like
I
action,
know, right?
like it's not just something that we just sort of say, hey, we did this. Like no, there's really step-by-step instructions on how to get started. So feel free to get started. And
And one thing I think we kind of glossed over that I think is kind of actually really important is that you can actually use Azure File Sync to synchronize files from on-premises to Azure
mhm,
to an Azure file share. Then you can then create a
snapshot.
snapshot of.
Yeah. How
That
about
I
that?
think we kind of yeah
New
exactly. So
scenarios.
we're yeah totally because if you notice towards the bottom where as you mentioned getting started, where is your workload running?
Yeah.
And it's a drop down.
Yeah.
It's not just Azure, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
So anyway, cool option
Very,
for blurring the lines.
very, very cool. All right. So the next one is Blob Index. Okay. So so this is really, really cool. This is something
Yes.
I've been waiting on. So essentially at a high level, this gives you the ability to query your blobs and the blobs is metadata at the storage level.
Right.
So let's take a look here. So if we just once again start with the title here, manage and find data. Remember that's the searching part for all of those of you
Yep.
out
Of
there
course.
with Blob
Yep.
Index for Azure Storage. So these are Azure Storage blobs. This is the blob
Yep.
part, not Azure Files, but the blobs.
Yep.
And it's just an index where you can add some attributes to all of your blobs as you put them in there, and then you can query them afterward.
Yep. And it's cool because it's multi-dimensional object attributes, right? So it's not necessarily just name value key pair.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you can actually basically have a very rich set of attributes to describe your content, right? Because let's be honest, sometimes you're putting video content in blobs,
Mm-hmm.
right? But we're not going to search through the binary for that. But you may want to have maybe your object attributes could include something like transcripts, or it might include some additional metadata, categorization. But within that categorization, you've got a hierarchical structure or something that name value key pair doesn't quite support.
Right.
So the fact that it's multi-dimensional object attributes to describe your data object, I think, makes it even more powerful.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and then, so as you do it, it's just kind of like part of whenever you here, here's the little graphic here for everybody to look at. Oh, not sharing it. Let's share it. So,
Oh, there you go.
so if when you upload a blob, you upload it with the tags, like you can see here, status is unprocessed, quality is 8K, source is raw, whatever it is.
Hmm.
And then on the other side, you can actually go and query the index and actually use
Aware
a where
clause.
clause that says I
Yeah.
need all the ones that are unprocessed, all of us. Like this is awesome because now I can keep
Yes.
the single source of truth on the
Yep.
blob, and it's kind of
Yep.
transactional, if you will, right? So in other words,
Yeah.
I can actually go into here and say, here are the ones I'm processing, here's the ones that are processed, and I'm not keeping that status somewhere else in some other database. It's right here. So I never have to worry about the
Dude,
consistency between the two, right?
totally stole my thunder because
Oh, sorry about
that's
that.
exactly where. No, that's awesome, right? Because think about it. We used to take clobs and blobs and historically store those in a relational database, right?
Yep.
And eventually people got wise and said, wow, this is taking up way too much
It's
space and I'm paying
expensive.
way too much for this
Yeah.
because it's in my DBMS.
Yeah.
So you're actually taking it out and then you use a data locator pattern or a service locator pattern, whatever you want to call it, probably data. Well, I'd call it data in this case, but you've got a pointer to that file,
Hmm.
right? That blob,
Well,
whether it's video, whatever
it
it
might have
is.
been on a file share back then, right? You just
Yeah,
move it
yeah,
off
yeah.
onto a file share.
I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah. So you're pointing at file share, or maybe you're exposing it to the internet, so it's an HTTP endpoint, right? But to your point, you had to make sure that the metadata in your repository, whether it was SQL or Oracle or whatever it was, you had to make sure that that metadata stayed was always synchronized and in sync with the actual content itself. You don't have to have two disparate pieces anymore to accomplish this. It simplifies things greatly. And let's be honest, if you're just using a database table as a metadata and a pointer, it's probably going to be a lot cheaper.
Yeah, right.
Right? You don't have to worry about georeplication. You don't have to because that's all taken care of, right? And how the different replication or the different what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, so you've got local
Oh
redundancy. I'm
yeah,
sorry, redundant.
yeah, sure. Global redundant, locally redundant,
Exactly.
whatnot.
Exactly.
Another thing I
That's right.
noticed here, if you go down a little bit farther in the article, it talks a little bit about platform feature integrations with Blob Index. So,
Yes. Yes.
for instance, now you can say, please move these blobs to cool storage according to this blob index. So in other words, if the file is processed or if it's,
Oh, right on.
so like you can use this
Yeah.
blob index to help define how to tier things off. So in other words, it's not just time. It's not just like last read time or last update time, which is kind of a platform piece of metadata that's kind of
Right.
already there.
Right.
Now we're
Right.
adding essentially custom metadata that can say things like it's processed or the source is raw. So you can say, I want you to move it to cooler if it's processed and the source is raw.
Absolutely. Or if say I'm just another example, retail. I have a product that I don't want to archive that particular order data
Mm-hmm.
until it's been
Yeah.
delivered. So where status equals delivered, boom,
Yep.
move it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that is really
Yeah.
cool. Man, oh man, this is
It's very,
awesome.
very cool. So once again, it's funny because you were talking about this. You were talking about this a minute ago, and it says the bottom title says, "Build it, use it, tell us about it." And so
Same thing again,
yeah,
exactly,
so
right? I
people,
love that we're soliciting
yeah,
feedback. That's so cool.
people really want people in the product group, not just people. These are product group
Well,
people. I mean, they're
yeah,
people too, I guess,
let's be honest.
but
Yeah.
they want
No,
to hear
but they're
from you
people.
guys.
Yeah, no, totally. So again, bear in mind it right now it is currently in preview, and it looks like these are France Central and France South.
Oh,
So if you
okay.
are in the EU, well, you can do it from anywhere, of course, but those particular regions is where we're previewing it. So
Yep.
um, any existing or new general purpose V2 storage account in France Central and France South can leverage this index.
Hmm.
You just have to make a request to be a part of the preview, and
Hmm.
you can start using it.
Yeah, and I just wanted to point out once again, it's general purpose V2. So if you have some existing V1 older storage accounts, those will not work. You need to upgrade to general purpose V2. General purpose V2
Right.
is the only ones that have like tiering and that kind of stuff. So anyway, if you're on
Right.
V1, you ought to move to V2 if you can, or if you're creating new ones,
Absolutely.
you ought to use V2 for sure.
Absolutely. The other
Oh,
cool thing, one last thing I'll
sure.
say about this is data classification, right?
Oh,
So
I hadn't thought of that.
part of your strategy around how you're, creating this multi-dimensional set of attributes, part of it may be something to do with how you're classifying
Yeah,
your data,
sure.
and that may determine certain things where,
Retention.
only, yeah, exactly. So, um, yeah, anyway, just wanted to call that out as, it's an awesome capability. I'm really excited that we've got it. Thank you so much to the storage team for delivering on
Yeah,
this.
absolutely.
Um, we know it's going to be popular.
Yep. Awesome. Okay. All right. So the next thing that we have here is some more archive storage announcements, and that
Yes.
is,
Some enhanced features.
yeah, that are generally
Not to be too
available.
generic.
It's
That was
true.
like back in the day, the old VB code when you got the unspecified
Yeah,
error.
that's right. It's
Oh,
just enhanced features.
okay.
No, let's dive in here. Let's see here.
Yeah, of course,
Um,
right? So there's been a lot of interest in Azure Archive Storage, right? Because what we've done is we've taken the old tape, right, backups on-prem that may or may not still be useful because tape degrades over time. They could get corrupted. There's all kinds of things that can happen. So we've taken that concept and we brought it up into the Azure Storage namespace,
right.
right? So archive storage, as the name implies, is it's cold storage. It's not meant to be accessed
Mhm.
frequently. And the recovery, the what is the response time? The prioritization for
It's a
recovery is,
few hours, I think.
yep. It
No,
looks
even
like
more than that. It's actually
50, up to
15.
15
Yeah.
hours. Yep. Yep. So, but you can prioritize it now. So this is cool. So priority retrieval from Azure Archive, right? So by paying a little bit more for the priority rehydration operation, you can place a request in front of other requests for offline data that needs to be returned.
Hmm.
Okay. So if you have a priority retrieval, high priority basically can retrieve the blobs under 10 gig,
Hmm.
okay, roughly, in less than an hour.
Hmm.
So if something just went off the rails or something, you got like, oh my gosh, we got to do a forensics. We're doing some threat hunting, and we need to go back in time to look at when the genesis of this was.
Yep.
Uh, boom, yeah, within an hour you could get a 10 gig log file that may help you
Yep.
get into that threat hunting and figure out what's going on. But so the priority retrieval is kind of a slick thing, right? So you may have just your generic, wait for it standard priority, or you can say high priority request and you'll get it. You'll go from up to 15 hours to less than an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. So so that's cool. That's one thing. Let's see
Yep.
but that's not the only thing.
No, of course not.
There's also upload directly to access tier. So in other words, that means you can just upload directly to archive rather than putting it in hot and then tiering it down to cool.
Yep. Yep. And I've been waiting for this, right? Because let's be honest, there's a lot of cases where it doesn't. I'm uploading it with the intent for it to go right to archive, but then I've got to tier it
Yep.
through storage. So I'm really glad to see now that you can take data. Maybe you need to archive it off of. Maybe you've got a file server on prem. Maybe you've got some data that can auto archive just because it's a transaction and it's been completed. Whatever the case, boom, you can go right to archive now.
Yep.
So there's no waiting. There's no hopping across the tiers.
Yep. Okay, so let's see, one more. There's the copy blob enhanced capabilities. So sometimes you want to work on a copy you want to keep your original but work on a temporary copy, and so you just need an extra
Yep.
copy. And so now the Blob API is able to support the archive access tier, allowing you to copy data in and out of archive tier within the same storage accounts. So this makes it a lot easier for you to pull stuff up so that you can just real quick look at it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So anyway,
Well, and you can specify the rehydration priority, the rehydrate priority,
that's
right? So again, goes back to the prioritization.
yep, that's right. So that way you
Yeah,
can get it quicker, or you can wait if you need if it's okay to just wait for a little bit longer. So
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, I think I think that's it on this one.
Yep,
Yeah, build it,
that
use
is
it,
what.
tell us
Yeah,
about it.
yeah,
Yeah, always.
exactly. Same thing. Yep, yep.
Yep,
Please provide
yeah,
feedback.
that's right.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the last storage related announcement we have is ATP for Azure
That's right.
Storage, new updates. Here we go.
Yep.
But there's a
Yeah.
lot in
So
this
we've got.
title. We have to break this down a little
I
bit.
know there really is, right? So Azure file support and new updates in advanced threat protection for Azure
That's
Storage,
right.
right? So we GA'd advanced threat protection for Azure Storage about a year ago, right?
Yep.
To basically um, obviously help customers protect data in their blob containers. From the list of cyber attacks is always growing. There's always new things that people are trying. There's new patterns that people are attempting, and different things are happening, right? So since then, at ATP for storage has been protecting, just literally millions of storage
Yep.
accounts, right? And helping customers see common malware,
Yep.
access from suspicious locations. When you're looking at a pattern of access. Um, Data exfiltration activities, people that might be leaking data out of a storage account, et cetera, et cetera. So this has been around for a while,
Yep.
right?
In Azure Storage, in Blob
Correct.
Storage. But
Exactly. Right. So
today, well,
today,
actually July
right?
13th, which actually wasn't that long
Yep.
ago.
Sorry. No, that was a couple days ago.
Actually, not long ago.
So we're extending that threat protection for Azure Storage to support Azure Files, right? And Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2.
Yes.
Okay. So to me, the cool thing about this is, how would you achieve the same thing on premises? So
Oh,
I've got a NAS, I've got a SAN, I've got something where I've got some files. There's a lot of people. I mean, obviously, you can lock it down from a usage perspective, but um, people compromise accounts. There's social engineering. This seems like it would be something really difficult to accomplish on-prem.
well, actually, I would even submit that you can't. And the
I was
reason,
alluding to that.
yeah, okay. So, well, I'm going to take the ball and run with it here.
Please
Uh,
do.
because the way that we understand what's going on, because like it says here, including suspicious sources. Okay, well,
Exactly.
guess where and how who knows what those suspicious sources are? It's from our security center, not Azure Security Center, but
Exactly.
I'm talking about our security. It's called the SOC or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
there isn't anyone in the world who knows more about the bad things going on in the cyber world than Microsoft, because we help take down these kinds of places, these kinds of nets, and we're monitoring them. So we know where those bad things are. And so we're watching for anomalous and bad exit strategies for
Yep.
blob storages before July 13th. But now, Azure Files and Data Lake Storage. So,
Oh,
these are
exactly.
capabilities you've just got to be able to take advantage of. And Rick, I always ask you this
Absolutely.
question. So, what do people have to do to start using the ATP for Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2?
Well, configure advanced threat protection for Azure Storage.
Check the box. Check the box. That's it. That's all you got to do.
Absolutely.
It
Yep,
makes it
absolutely.
super easy. You don't have to deploy anything. You don't have to upgrade anything. Just
Nope.
go in there and turn it on. Azure
Enable it.
Advanced Threat Protection. That's exactly right.
Yep, exactly. Absolutely. And so, and there's a little bit of the blurb down towards the bottom of this article is great, right? So we literally have world-class algorithms that learn, profile, and detect, right? So we're
Hmm.
constantly, as we get new information, as we see new patterns, as we see new things, we're constantly applying those to ATP to protect you, the customer, from these threats that are either emerging or predictively going to happen, right?
Yep.
There's alerts, right? So you will get Azure Security Center alerts, you potentially email notifications. And the cool thing that I like about this too is it integrates with Azure Sentinel, right?
Yep.
So when we talk about threat hunting, threat investigation, this integrates into Azure Sentinel, our SIM, so that you have kind of a very, I would say, end-to-end kind of solution where you can see the genesis, you can see the location, you can see all the information from the APT or ATP, I'm sorry, capabilities into your SIM to really, I think, kind of expedite the process of your forensic analysis to see what actually happened,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right?
It's one consistent platform. and
Totally.
and over time we will only tighten down and integrate these different
Yep.
services so they integrate with the other services that create the create the synergy that you're expecting from the Azure platform.
Exactly.
So it's great developments. Okay, so
Absolutely.
that was a lot about Azure Storage, and actually for all of those listening, there's more. We 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 probably have another show still for Azure
Absolutely.
Storage that we'll do, and so over the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, whatever, however long we were gone, I went through and got all of the titles. So we have lots of shows to do, and Rick, we could even do more shows a week than one if we wanted to for a little while, but.
I really think we probably should.
Yeah, but also I wanted to say, we're really looking into figuring out how we can get a guest host on the show to really focus in on some of these topics to get another point of view
Yep.
because
Yep.
it's really fun to have a few. There is another box on the screen. People notice down here. There's me, and then there's Rick, and then there's another box down there that has Azure Flash News, and another person would fit just perfectly right there. So,
That's
anyway,
awesome.
so
And we're not just saying we welcome guests from our esteemed colleagues, but we're also welcoming to guests who would like to maybe a customer who
yeah,
would like to come in and talk about a solution they've developed
yeah,
or would like to kind of introduce us to something that they've been working on. And it's if you would like to share your story, we would love to have you on the show.
that's
It's
exactly
that
right.
simple.
That's exactly right. So,
Yep.
with that said, Rick, if people want
Yep.
to contact you, how can they catch you after the show?
Absolutely. So if you're interested in anything, questions, comments, cheap shots, remarks, invites to be on the show,
Trolling,
anything,
shade, all that
and
stuff.
yeah, throwing shade. That's all. It's all good. Feel free to DM me at Azure Flash News
Yep.
via Twitter, or of course you can also reach me at Code Border, one word,
As in
um,
snow border.
or as in snowboarder.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm a code border. Yep. Or if you prefer traditional email, I'm available at rick@microsoft.com.
That's right. And if you want to catch me, you can catch me on Twitter at mgarner on Twitter. And also, you can email me, mgarner@microsoft.com. Either of those is just fine. I think that's it, dude.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh,
just remember, everybody, you can catch the show live on live, not on Facebook. You can catch the show live on YouTube, which we are live right now, but of course it'll archive here in a minute. And then you can also catch us on podcasts on Stitcher and Google and also iTunes. So try and catch us wherever it makes sense for you, and let us know if there's another spot that we're missing.
yeah, absolutely.
So
We're happy to accommodate.
I think that's it, man. I think
Yeah,
we got it.
yeah, absolutely. So thank you for anybody who tuned in live. We appreciate obviously the audience, and for anybody who's listening, who's watching, who's transcribing, anything. Thank you.
Yeah.
Obviously, without you guys, we wouldn't be here. And thank you to Mark for putting all this stuff together. Obviously, under normal circumstances, we'd be doing this via the MTC. We've got great production facilities, but in these interesting times, Mark has stepped up and like took it upon himself to go, how do we do this?
Yeah.
And then we see these awesome like added benefits of streaming live to YouTube and all these other cool
That's
things.
right.
So super exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we definitely need to be. We'll get on a roll here pretty soon, but we look forward to chatting with you. Same place. I won't say.
Yeah.
Not necessarily same time,
Same YouTube
but as
channel, same
yeah,
podcast.
yeah, or whatever podcast you refer to. But until the next time, keep your fingers on the keyboards, your head in the cloud, or keep reaching for the
That's
stars.
right. And stay safe. Stay safe. So,
Stay safe,
stay
please.
distant,
Yep.
wear a mask, and take care of yourself. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah. Awesome. Take care,
All
everybody.
right. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we good?